Let's build with Kenny J. Hi, everyone. So in the last video, we went through and we talked about how to get the messages, the posts, the feed from a particular user. And we were able to use just a simple get endpoint. And let's look for it right here there we go. So it's get posts for public key. And when we ran it, we just entered in the person's username. You'll see I have another one now. I created a new one just for the video for testing. And we can see if I go to this new account, Kenny J Test, I've got 4 posts right here. If I go back to here, we got our 4 posts. If I try to get any more, it says no more posts. And we also kind of went through how to set up Replit, which is this ID. So if you missed that, go back, watch that. It'd probably be more helpful as we go through this today, because what we are learning today is how to actually post a message. So that would be this thingy where we go in and we write our message. Hello, world. Right? And we hit post. So now we want to learn how to do that programmatically, and we're going to be doing it again in Python. But first, before I go on, I want to give a big shout out to It's Aditya. He created, I found out all of this after I posted the first video. A lot of people who were interested commented, and Zian Mead, he pointed me to this Python library, API library that already did a lot of the stuff that we went through, but it kind of hides it behind some very well-organized API calls. And then It's Aditya messaged me or replied and said, hey, this is mine, you're welcome to use it. And I was like, oh, this is great, because reading through the code, all of a sudden I wasn't like, bumping around in the dark trying to figure out how things work. It literally accelerated my learning curve like 20x. So so today we are going to go ahead and copy and paste some of that code, but in the future, probably just in the next episode, we'll go ahead and import the library and then use it and go through how to use that. It'll make our lives a lot more simple. But I figure before we get there, it's never a bad idea to understand what's kind of going on under the hood, right? I know there's the expression, don't reinvent the wheel, but I always say, don't reinvent the wheel unless you want to understand a lot more about wheels, right? So we're not going to go super deep, but we're going to do a little bit of reinventing of the wheel just so we can understand maybe at a little lower level, meaning more towards the details of how it's implemented. And then we'll go ahead and use a higher level, meaning a more abstraction on top of that, in order to get work done more efficiently, more quickly. So, okay, moving on. All right, let's take a look at the documentation for this. We'll go through it. We'll go through it right now, and then we'll come back after we're done, and I think we'll understand it a little bit better. So first of all, we're going to be using the submit post endpoint, and you'll notice that it is a post method. So we are posting a post, and but of course this post here refers to this right here, like typing in a body. We'll start this message. We'll refer to this as a body because that's how it's referred to in code, and then we'll submit it, which is this post button here. But it says prepare prepare transaction. It doesn't say submit the post. And we'll understand that what happens is this ends up being a 2-part operation. And the reason for that is, if you remember with when we just wanted to get the information, oh, I think I misspoke. I said that this was a get. technically this is also a post, right? We had to go down here somewhere in our code right there and do a post, but it functions kind of like a get. It's just read only, right? We're just getting information back, and this is all public information. So we didn't have to go through any sort of authentication in order to get this information. And that's why all we really had to do is tell what username we wanted to get the information for, and it just all came back. Well, as you can imagine, posting information, sending information to the blockchain, you want a little bit more authentication than that. So that's what makes this a two-part. So the first part, when it says prepare transaction for submitting the post, that's when we set up this block of information, and it's going to contain, most importantly, this to us, right? This body, the information we want to send to DeSo and be recorded there for time and all eternity. But when we execute this and we send it that information, it doesn't show up automatically. Why? Well, could you imagine if all I had to do was get a person's, in this case, it's going to be their user public key. All I had to do was get their key, which is, if I go to profile, it's just this right there. And I could go to anyone's profile and get their public key. If that's all it took, I could impersonate anyone, and someone could impersonate me. And that's not what we want. So what we end up doing is that first one is kind of like, it's a proposal, right? Like, hey, this is the proposal. I would like to send this information and put it on the blockchain. And then the second part is, we'll get to this a little bit later, is the submit transaction. And that's our stamp of approval. And that's when we're going to send through a special authentication to make sure it actually gets written and it sticks there. Okay. And when we get there, you'll see that there's a little bit of sensitive information that I'm not going to show you, because if I showed you, then anyone watching this video would be able to impersonate me and post as in my account. And that's also why I created the Kenny J test account, just in case I messed up and someone got a hold of something security wise and was able to imitate me. I could just, shut down that account or whatever. Anyway, but I'm going to be very careful, and and of course I can always cut the stuff out of the video, but I'm just kind of squeamish about that. Like, I don't want anything to actually have been recorded. So anyway, we'll get there. But once again, sorry, blabbering on. Two parts. One part is our proposed information that we want to send to the blockchain. And then the second piece will be the follow-up, like stamp of approval with our authorization, and then it can get written. Okay, let me see, make sure I'm on track. Yep, requires 2 API posts or 2 calls and submit posts and then submit transaction. And did not mean to do that. All right. Okay, let's go ahead and go to Replit. There we go. We'll start there. I'm going to create a brand new REPL, and this one I will just go ahead and keep with kind of the naming convention that I've been going with. There we go. Create REPL. And if you're following along at home, go ahead and do that. If you don't know what I'm doing right here, go back and watch the previous video and we'll get you set up. Okay, so first of all, we are going to want to, once again, import our requests library. And we're going to want, so the way this will work is we'll just ask the user, what's the message that you want to send? And then we'll ask them this sensitive information. We'll get to that in a second. And then with those two pieces of data, we'll be able to post the transaction to the blockchain. But first of all, let's just get the message. And we'll say input and what's the message or post or, whatever you want to call it. You'd like to send. Whoops, that's not correct. Is this good wording? The message. I just what's the post you'd like to post? Kind of sounds dumb, but it's possibly more accurate. So I don't know if there is, like in Twitter, there's a tweet. I'm ignorant if there's an equivalent in DeSo. There's a D's? No, it's something else, but I don't know what it is. There we go. What's the post you'd like to post? All right. Run it. Hi. And of course, nothing happens. Okay, as expected. Now, a second piece of information we're going to need is that public key. So if you go to Diamond App or to BitClout and click on your profile, you should see a number like this, or it's not a number, it's a string, a unique identifier. And if I click on that, it will put it in my clipboard, and I'm just going to hard code it. Once again, this is super not what I would teach my students to do, but we're going to do just a little spaghetti code just so we can understand the concepts. So this public key, I am not, like I said, I'm not afraid about this getting out, because anyone can get it. They can go to my profile and grab this. That's why it's called public. It's a public key. Okay. What's the URL that we'll be posting to? I'll stay consistent. Python's fine with single or double quotes, but I'll try to stay consistent. If we go to the documentation, it's right here. API, VO, submit post. And let me go right here, but let me remember that we'll want to put our host there too, and we'll just keep using BitClout. At some point when you spin up your own node, then you'll want to replace bitclout.com with whatever the domain is for your node. But right now we're just gonna hitch a ride on BitClout. Okay, so let's take a look again. And what do we have? We have public key of the updater. So that's this right here. And then post hash to be modified, optional, we'll leave that blank. Parent stake ID, we'll leave that blank. Title, we'll leave that blank. These are all optional. Body obj, that will be this string part, the body, that is the message that we're going to be posting. And if we had any image URLs, we won't do this today, but when we run through it's Aditya's library, maybe we'll do that. Optional. So really, all we need is this and this. And with this, all we really need is just that body part. That sounded weird. Anyway, okay, so I'm going to do a little copy pasta right here. Okay, so we got our data, we got our public key, which is right here. All the rest we are just leaving blank. It's optional. The image URLs, I'm just giving it empty strings, and then the message, this is what the user will import, or the input. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. And just like we did last time, we'll do request, post, URL, and JSON equals data. Very good. And then we want to be able to catch the information coming back, even though we are writing. Remember, this is a two-parter, and there's a critical piece of information that will come back to us that we need to use in order to do the part two, our stamp of approval, our authorization. And so I will go ahead and catch that in a variable called response. And we will, for the fun of it, just so we can take a look at what's going on, we will convert that to JSON and then we'll print it. So far so good. Let's see what happens. Let's hit run. What's the post you'd like to post? Hi there from the tutorial. I shouldn't really, I'm gonna be doing this a lot. I probably shouldn't have to write this out over and over again. Hi there from the tutorial. Okay. Let's take a look and let's format this in a way that's easier for us humans to read. Copy, and let's bring up Notepad. We'll do paste and format. Okay. So we have timestamp nanos. So this is kind of fun. I just brought this up here. We can feed that into, this is just epoch converter. These timestamps in nanoseconds, you could convert them into an actual date and time. And often on like Diamond app and stuff like that, it'll just show you like hours, days. If you wanted to create your own and actually show the date, oh, look, I hover over it and it shows the date. That's what I was talking about. If you wanted to show the date that it happened or have it, printed out, you could do that because all you have to do is convert that number over. But let's go back. Post hash hex, that's fine. Interesting. Okay, so public key, this is different than the one I sent. But what I want to get through is this transaction hex. This is what we're going to need to be able to sign, to verify one of the pieces of data. We're going to need two critical pieces in order to get this transaction to work or to get it posted and stick there on the blockchain. So how we get that? Well, let's go ahead and we will call this transaction hex equals, and we're going to take our response JSON and right there, transaction hex, copy. Let's try this one more time. But instead of printing out the whole JSON, let's just print out our transaction hex and we'll keep going from there. Okay. All right. I'm just going to vomit on there. There we go. That would be the transaction hex coming back. Next step is we're going to go to Aditya's library that's out here. If you'll notice, he's got it set up for a nice pip install, and we'll go over that later on a later video when we decide to use it, import it as a library. But right now I went to his the GitHub repository, and I found my way down into this particular Python module called Sign. And as you can see, it's very, very mathy. And this is the function that we will be using. And you'll see it requires a seed hex and a transaction hex. And we haven't talked about seed hex yet, but transaction hex is the one that we just got. So what we'll do here is I'm going to copy the raw contents. Yeah, so it's GitHub Aditya Chandari 0005. You should be able to get to it there. I'm going to go ahead and create a module here Sign.py. I believe that is what, yeah, that's what it's called. And then I pasted the contents here. So I'm just going to hijack this one. This is all that mathy stuff that's going to happen in order to generate a code or generate a hash in order to sign this transaction in order to authorize it. So what will we do there? We will go ahead and if we call it, we need, let's see, before we call it, we need to import it, right? So we'll do from sign import, and let's see, the function we want to import is sign transaction hex. So I'll do that. And then I'll use it here. And what were the inputs? We have seed hex and transaction hex. So I'll just put seed hex here for right now, even though I don't have it, and we'll go over that. And then I guess I can, all right, I'm kind of mixing my styles, so that's fine. And the transaction hex would go there, and then it returns, we'll call it a signed transaction hex. Okay. So far, so good, except we don't have the seed hex. All right, that's where it gets a little interesting. And I'll try to make a quick explanation of what's going on. I won't get too down in the weeds, but what we need to do is get a hash value, a hex value that's based on our seed that we used when we created our identity. And so that is not stored anywhere on the blockchain. No one knows about that except for you, and you shouldn't give it to anyone. And there's a seed hex that is generated from your seed that is also just as important to keep, kind of keep to yourself. So let's, you know what, let me show you. If you go to DevTools, click on Inspect, it'll bring this up and you'll go Application, and it'll show local storage, identity DeSo, and users. You would click on users, and let me show you from here. I don't want to expose anything that I shouldn't. So let me go back to this page. So I got you there that far, right? Right click, do inspect, application, local storage, identity DeSo, click on users, then click on the public key for the user account you're going to post with. In this case, you can see it's the BC1YLFUS. So that's this one. I clicked on that and I see seed hex, and you can probably see that mine starts with a 2, but that's all I'm going to give you, right? I don't want this. I need to protect as if it were a password that I could never ever change, right? And if someone got this, they could impersonate me and no one would be able to stop them. So that's kind of the seriousness that you have to realize that this seed hex is. And that's why I am not going to just paste it in my code. I'm going to ask the user for it. So, and probably even before the message. So I'm going to say seed hex equals and input. What is your seed hex? I guess it's one word. I don't know. And also, when I run it, in order to make it so it doesn't show up on the screen, I'm just going to do a quick little thing. Whoops. I'm going to import a little code snippet that I got off the internet that allows me to clear the screen in Python. And I have to, in order for it to work, I need to import from the OS library the system and name function. And it's just going to issue based on what operating system this is. It's going to issue the right command to clear the screen. And I will call this right after I import my seed hex. So let me run this and I will pause it. I'm going to pause it before I put in my seed hex, and then I'll unpause it. So here we go. I'm going to hit run. It's going to say, what is your seed hex? Okay. It said, what is your seed hex? I pasted it in. I copy pasted it in, hit return. It cleared the screen. So now it's asking, what's the post you'd like to post? And I'll say, hello, hit return. We're grabbing information from my proposed post and then marrying it together with that seed hex that I have that only I know. And it's creating this other hex value that we will go ahead and post along now. So now let's get to getting your seed hex. We did that. Get hex. Okay, we did that. We don't want to hard code this. I'm going to get it and then clear the screen. So that's what we did there. Good. Now we're going to get to part 2 where we've already signed it. Now we're going to submit it. And let's take a look at the docs. So we already have this part. We're sending the body, we're sending our public key, but then it's saying that we need to do this submit transaction. So let's look for that one. Submit transaction. Very good. And here, all we do is we're submitting the transaction hex, nothing else, no other information. We're just saying, we're giving it like that stamp of approval, right? With our authorization saying, yep, it's me. It's really me who posted it because here's my hash hex, my secret. And now it's authorized. You can go ahead and write it. No one's trying to impersonate me. So we've got our signed transaction hex there. And we'll go ahead. And now we're going to post to this endpoint. So we'll just do, once again, not super clean code, but we're just learning, right? So that's fine. We're learning how to do the thing. Okay, so that's why I'm just calling it URL2 instead of something better named. Okay, BitCloud submit transaction. And then what was the data that we needed? And I'm just going to call this data 2. It was just one piece of data, one name value pair, transaction hex, right? Transaction hex. And the value we're going to send it is this signed transaction hex, right? Don't be fooled and try to send this transaction hex back. That's not going to work. We need to run it through this mathematical computation thingy. And then it comes back with a signed transaction hex. That's what we're sending through. And then we do a good old response to grab this. And I'm just going to be boring response 2 because, and we're going to use our requests and post, and we'll post the URL 2. So that's this endpoint. And what are we sending it? JSON equals data 2. And let's go ahead and we'll do a response to JSON. Like guy's name. All right. Response to JSON. And we'll go ahead and print it just to see what it looks like coming back. And we will, just so we know that everything's done, we'll say thank you. Okay, let's give it a shot. Once again, I'm going to pause it and put in my seed hex. Done. This is my message from the tutorial. Okay, I didn't get any errors. For this was our, of course, that was our transaction hex coming back. And then this is everything coming back from our, when we submitted the transaction to confirm. And let's go here, we'll refresh, cross our fingers, make sure I did everything right. And boom, this is my message from the tutorial. Yay, I always love when it works in a live demo. Well, I guess it's not live. I could have edited this all, but anyway, there we go. Let's take a look, make sure we went through everything. That is the main stuff that we were going to do. And now I have just a couple additional notes, fun things that I found out as I was doing this that you might find interesting. Let's go back to this up here. So I kind of passed over these optional ones real quickly, like they didn't matter. And one that stuck out to me was this title. And I thought, well, that's interesting because we don't really, in all the apps that we're using here, it's very, Twitter-like, where it's just the body, it's just the information going through. But if you wanted to create a front end that was possibly more like Reddit, where you actually had a title and then a body and then comments on that particular post, then I was like, well, that's pretty cool. Maybe we'll work on that. Maybe we'll do kind of a Reddit style client, because there's certain conversations I find that are easier to follow in the Reddit style. Well, I tried pushing data through, and even though, and I didn't expect it to show up here, but I did expect, oh, let's run this real quick so we can see, whoops. I did at least expect to see it coming back in the JSON. Whose post would you like to see? Kenny J test. There's my message from the tutorial. I expected that if I were to print out, let's see, where do we get our posts? Print response JSON. Let's do this again. Kenny J test. Right, we remember this information we got. If I copy it, copy, paste, put here, make it pretty. Find title. So the post response is not bringing that title key back with any. It's not even just not bringing it back with data. It's not coming back, and I don't know if that maybe it's possible that. Let's go back up here. Submit post. it's possible that I don't understand what this parameter means, but I know it's not coming back in the JSON. So I was a little bummed because I was getting excited. I'm like, oh, that's cool. We'll do a Reddit version. But I did then notice this post extra data. And it says extra data values must be string. So then I played around with that. And let's try that here. So now, in addition to, nope, that's not the one. This was the one I was looking for. Let's go ahead and, oh, I guess I did it already. So you'll see this was from my preparation. I was going to leave this blank. Did I really leave? Oh my goodness, I'm a nerd. Okay. Anyway, you probably, I should have just ran it like this. This is normally, whoops, post extra data. Normally it would just run like that, but I can put in something like, how about title? And now if I run it, well, you can see I already put Kenny Rocks in there. So let's take a look at that again. Right there, post extra data, description, Rocks, name, Kenny. That was just kind of my, my dumb, that's as I was developing or doing sandboxing, trying to figure things out. But we could use this for actually something important like title. This is the title of my post. If you had an app that wanted to do some geolocation, some tagging of where like maybe pictures were taken, you could do geo lat for the latitude, and they need to be strings. You can't put numbers in there, but it'd be like, I don't know, we'll be somewhere in Southern California, latitude 33, geo longitude, where are we? We're, I think we're, that should be somewhere in Southern California, I think, negative 117. Anyway, I've spent a lot of professional time in geocoding. So anyway, let's try this one last time. I'm gonna go ahead and pause. Okay, and let's say maybe I'm reviewing a restaurant and I'm having the geolocation is telling me where it's at. So let's say I don't know, good service. Yay. All right. Goes through, does all of that. If we go to the front end, a front end client, you'll see it right there, good service, but you don't see any of that that metadata, that extra data that I put in. But if we go here and that's clear, stop, start, Kenny J test, and let's take a look at this. I realize I already spoiled the surprise by leaving all that other information in there, but I apologize. Surprises are fun. Okay, post extra data. There we go. That's the title of my post. This is the title of my post. And the geolocation is 33 negative 117. Let's see here. Let's see how close I got. All right. So in case you were wondering, 33 negative 17 is, oh, all right, between Escondido and El Cajon. All right. Okay, so what can we use that post extra data for? Like I said, we could actually put the title in there, maybe tags or categories for posts. Maybe you want to have a front end client where people can post to different categories. That might be fun. Or I've spent part of my professional career working with reviews site data like Yelp and Google Reviews, TripAdvisor, and grabbing the data from there. And one of the great things, one of the things that got me really excited about DeSo is, and I think it excites a lot of us, is that there's so much great data that has been generated by users just in this small little area in the form of reviews of a particular business or a hotel or what an attraction. But all that data is locked away by those organizations like Yelp and Google and Angie's List and all of that. So we have users who are creating value for a company and they get no value back, right? And there is no public API to slurp that data out. And so I kind of feel passionate about this, and this might be a project that I end up working on. If someone else works on it, more power to you. I would love to use it. But I would love to have a Yelp killer kind of app that's on the DeSo, on the blockchain, where anyone could then use these APIs to get that information out and help make their business better, improve, because you can look through these suggestions, these comments. I've worked with cities that are their tourist destination cities, and they're always trying to figure out what can be improved. This is such useful data, and what we had to do is scrape all this data from these public sites, and it's just such an annoying thing that doesn't have to be. And this is one of my hopes with DeSo, is that we can allow this data that's locked up to just be freed so that people can improve their businesses, improve people's way of life. Anyway, I'm kind of a strong believer in that. I don't know if I'm a full evangelist for data wants to be free, but I'm at least a sympathizer. Anyway, that's what I got for you today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it wasn't too confusing, and let me know if there's any other programming development things that you'd like me to walk through. I don't think we'll spend all of our time in Python. I'd like to move over to maybe Node.js also and kind of do some walkthroughs, but we'll stick with Python for a little while. Okay, thanks.